Howdy folks, Little John, and it's Thursday afternoon, end of the working week. It's a nice afternoon out here on the veranda. For good time to do a taste on the latest brew coming out of the brewery, and that would be the Cooper's IPA. It's the Bootmakers IPA. No, yeah, Bootmakers Brew A. I'm pretty sure it was the Bootmakers. This one was brewed back on the 15th of March. Yeah, I'll put a link up for the video of the brew day. So we'll get them out. Now, like I said, this was brewed back on the 15th of March. It was bottled on the 30th. So these are now just over a month old. They've been in the cupboard at sort of 20-ish degrees since then, and they've been in the fridge now for about 4 or 5 days. They've been in the fridge, so they've had an ideal amount of time to carbonate and enough time to settle enough in the fridge. We can get a good tasting on them today. So let's have a quick run through what we were looking at. So Brew A was split two ways. First half of the batch was done with 1 kilogram of Cooper's BE3, the newer brewing sugar, and it had a boil which had 15 grams of citra for 10 minutes and 15 grams of Galaxy, which I've scratched out there, and I've got a funny feeling it was the same. And it was dry hopped on day 8 with 7 of Galaxy and 13 of citra. Now remember, this is a half batch. I don't have the actual litres here. It was somewhere around 11 litres in the fermenter, 11 and a half. So this fella's fairly standard sugar combo, lightishly hopped. It's got a reasonable amount of hop, 30 grams in the boil, 20 dry, so that's 60 if it wasn't split, so it's a decent amount. And the second batch, this was more, definitely played around this side a lot more. This had a mini mash of half a kilo of lager malt and 400 grams of rye, mashed for 30 minutes at 65 degrees, and that was boiled for 10 minutes. And then the hops were added at flame out, and I dropped in some Mosaic and Chinook, and it was just left to sit. 10 minutes later I added 20 of Glacier, 15 of Citra. 10 minutes after that, 30 grams of El Dorado, and that sat for another 10 minutes, and that was added to the fermenter. So that was a 4 litre boil as well, and it was set in a dry hop of 8 grams of Centennial, 22 grams of CTZ, Columbus, Tomahawk and Zeus. It's a day 8. So this one's got a fair whack of, it's got a fair whack of hop in it, plus the rye, so it should be pushing things a little bit harder. So we'll go with the, this is the more standard, run off the kit Original gravity 1054, fermented with, yeah, good question. I haven't put the yeast here. Jesus, that's clever of me, isn't it? I'm pretty sure, actually, these were both USA 5. I had a couple of packets there. I'm pretty sure these were just, yeah, hang on, there it is. USA 5, rehydrated and pitched at 18 degrees, fermented at 18. So, final gravity of 1016 for 5.4% in the bottle. And it's looking quite nice. Got good carbonation, there's a nice head. See, she looks pretty good. And it smells quite nice. Sit down. Stop it. Bloody dogs. I'll carry on. It's part of the reason I try to avoid doing videos out here, but it's too nice an afternoon. No, go away. Anyway. Nah, she wants me to play, got no choice. Anyway, so it's got good nose, it's not overpowering, it's not overly strong, but it's nice. So okay, the first thing you're really getting is that the malt is quite sweet. It's not sickly sweet, it's not sugary sweet, it's almost syrupy. Jesus. They don't like making life easy for you, do they? But it's, yeah, so that's, initially it's just a little too much malt. You want a bit of malt in your IPA, depending on how you're going. It's obviously more a maltier version. Now the hops are there, but they're not big, they're not really jumping out. And, you know, I said Bootmakers. I'm not sure, I'm assuming from the colour that this is an English-based IPA. I don't know for sure, I can't say. But it's deeper in the malt than one would certainly be going for an American IPA. So we're assuming it's a more of an English sort of a style. In which case the balance is generally a bit more distinct than with American, and that's where it is. It's got a good punch of hops, but they're not standing out. They're there, and it's working with the malt. Stop it. But there is a strong presence of that kit flavour of the kit. I don't think it's just coming from the sugars, from the malt. It does seem to be that underlying sort of kit. It's not quite coming across as twang, but that syrupy sweetness that you can tend to get with the heavy malt driven kit beers. Not terrible. Okay, so this fella, yeah, we've tarred him a bit more, we've left the sugars out. I said rye, lager malt, small steep. A lot of hops, but they've come in later. There's no hop boil. And there's a lot more head on that, poured with a lot more head, which is to be expected with there's a lot more hop oil in there. Surprisingly, there's not really that much extra nose on it. Now, this one started at 1046 on the gravity and finished at 1011 for a final 5% in the bottle. So it's a bit lighter on the alcohol. It's finished considerably lighter on the body. And so we'll see how she goes. Okay, straight away, that malt sweetness is not as evident. It's still there, but it's not as big as it is there. The hops are working a little bit more. But again, the hops really aren't that prominent considering, again, what is there. But that being said, there's no boil, it's all post-boil, flame out, and during cooling, all but a whirlpool additions. So they're not going to add a huge amount of flavour, and particularly in this brew, there is too much malt to allow them to be really shining. But they're there, they're certainly noticeable. Now there's a slight grassy note from the hop, and it's going to be hard to really pick where that's coming from. Could well be, I've got a hazard that it's from the Columbus dry hop, 22 grams, it's 44 in a reasonably small batch, but it's not a bitey, nasty grassiness. It is more that hop grassy flavour. You can almost say it's piney. I mean, it could be flowing from the Chinook. That is possible. But other than that, the hops there are all fairly, they're mingling nicely and just giving a nice presence. Again, I think if that was less malt driven, it probably would work a lot better. That's a nice drop. I'm not really getting anything from the rye. Yeah, no, then again I am. It's actually, it is possible that little edgy note is related to somewhat to the rye. It may not be hop driven. It's not really distinct. Again, it's not a massive amount of rye. So it's not going to really jump up and stand out. I mean, it is pretty subtle in anywhere I've experienced rye in beers, unless it's really a really big focus of the bill. It is fairly subtle. Yeah, and actually, given that a bit of time, it is more a spice than a grass. So it could be the rye that's giving that little bit of an edge. And I said, it's not an unpleasant edge. It's certainly something that this one, hasn't got. So it has pushed that a little bit. Colour-wise, they're fairly similar. That doesn't make much difference with the sugar or the grain. That is, as I said, I think a fairly tidy English style IPA. I think there's just too much unfermented sugar, too much unfermented malt in there. I said the BE3 would be, it's half a kilo of dry malt and there'd be 250 grams of maltodextrin in there. Now in a half batch I think that's just a little too much. I think if that was 50-50 malt and dex, so 500 of each, so still for your kilo, and you didn't have that 250 grams of unfermentable maltodextrin in there and a little bit extra from the dextrose, and you could drop this down 2 or 3 more points, I think it would be a far more drinkable beer. Because the hops are there is good malt, but there's too much sweetness, and it's just detracting from the good things that are there. Like I said, it could be related to the kit, but I'm not really picking it up in here. But it could just be hidden a bit better. But as I said, given that's all malt and that's not, I'm thinking that's where it is. Because as much as that's got it's got that nice sweetness from the malt, which you should be having in a malt focused IPA, but it's not syrupy and bordering on sickly, which that fella really is. Now, stepping aside from the from me being an all grain brewer and not wanting my snobbery to come into play too much, if you are a kit brewer and that's all the beers you're making, and you're doing kits and bits or kit and kilo, a little bit of mini mash, a little bit of additions, that's not that far off the mark of being what you're looking for. So as I said, I think the kit base isn't it's not a terrible base. I think it works. As I said, just dry malt and some dex, and I think that's in a much better place. It's going to be much more drinkable, it's going to be much more friendlier, and I think the hops will stand up a little bit more and just play a little bit more in the whole picture. And I think that would be quite a drinkable beer if that's where your brewing's at. This fella, taking some extra effort, doing the mini mash, getting a little bit more hop in there, having a little bit more of a go at it. Has produced more of that result. It's not as sweet. It's got plenty of malt there. The hops are in the game. They're doing their thing. They're there. They're noticeable. They're not over the top, which they're not going to be. There's no boil hops in there at all, so there's no big flavours. I think that probably would have benefited from some of those hops being pushed into the boil, even just for 5 minutes, just to throw a little bit extra in there. Could have stuck with that and just added 20 grams, 30 grams of something towards the end for the 5 minutes and still gone with the nice longer whirlpool and post-boil hop regime to still get that bit extra and push it a bit more. But that's more an American style. As far as the pommy style, as I said, which is where I really, obviously this is where I think this is going, that's worked alright. And depending on where your flavour profile is and what your tastes are, you know, it would depend whether you really would like to do something with that or just run with it. As I said, as a kit beer, that's quite tasty. It's not going to compare with what you can knock out with grain and doing it, you know, but it was a far easier brew day. Not a difficult process, and it's certainly something anybody can do at home with no problem at all, with no special equipment. So again, just shows if you want to take the effort and put a little bit extra time in, you can turn a kit into a reasonable beer. As I said, I don't care who you are. The basics in kit brewing very rarely make a good beer. They make a beer that you can drink if you're happy to drink cheap beer. You know, you want to make good beer, you've got to make some sort of an effort to boost your base. You can't just stick with your base and throw a bit of sugar in and you think you're going to get a good beer, because you know, I don't care how many people want to tell you they can. I haven't met anybody yet who consistently brews a simple kit brew which will challenge, you know, an all grain beer made with some decent promise. But get that one out there. Pommy style, that's what you want. Half a kilo of Dex. Pack of USA 5, 18 degrees, a little bit of a boil, a little bit of dry hop, nothing serious. Like I said, 50 grams of hops, that's $5 worth of hops. So if you done a full batch, it'd be $10 worth of hops, $18 can, and 2 packs of yeast. It's going to cost you $10. So $38 for what will be 2.5 cartons of Pommy IPA. Save you a bloody fortune. And give you something nice to slurp down and finish off the work week with. So as the light fades, before I fade and you can't see me anymore, I'm going to wrap up. So as always, if you've got any questions, anything about the process, or anything about what I might change or not change, or what certain things would do, ask away. Stick them down the bottom. If you haven't subscribed, as always, why the bloody hell not? Hit the button down there in the bottom. The little red button says subscribe, just in case you're confused about which one it is. It's down there. Somewhere down there. Little red box. Tick on it. Every time I decide to have some beers, you get to see me doing it. But we chat and all the rest of it. So, that's me. Cooper's IPA, 2 ways. Reasonable beer. Worth doing if you're a kit brewer. So, that's me. Till I see you again. Drinking beer, we talking beer, we brewing beer. Good brewing.